Hailee Steinfeld, your new film, The Edge of 17, has opened to really great reviews and positive responses from audiences. When you were making the film, did you think that it would have such a positive reaction from people?
I guess when you're making something you love and you're passionate about it, and every single person that's on the project feels the same way, you know that there's something special. And I feel like when it's that sort of contagious, you know sort of in the slightest bit that people will enjoy it. But I guess, the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive, and I can't say I ever expected it to be this good.
Well, I think what people love so much about it is that it's honest. It's not like a typical teen comedy. There's quite a bit of truth to it and quite a bit of pathos to it. And it all starts with your character, Nadine. Tell us a little bit about who Nadine is.
So Nadine is exactly, it all starts with her, like you said. She is a girl trying to find the answers to so many questions, and some of those questions being as simple as who am I, and what am I good at, and how and what am I supposed to do to fit in? Do I even want to fit in? She's trying to go through life answering those questions on her own, even for that matter. And everything, she goes from one moment being the happiest person alive, the most likable person, everybody, that one girl you want to know and want to hang out with, to the complete opposite in like 25 seconds. She is just a roller coaster of emotions, this girl.
Right. And the film is a very specific look at what it is to be a 17-year-old girl, an experience that you just went through a couple of years ago, albeit, I'm sure, a bit different from what Nadine went through. But did you pull from any real experiences that you had gone through for this character?
Absolutely. In ways, so I was homeschooled through high school, so I didn't have a traditional high school experience, but I don't feel that in any way removed me from who she is. In some ways, I'm convinced that it helped me, because I really knew what that sense of alienation felt like when you walk into the hallways of a high school and it's just complete chaos, and you don't know what to do or where to look. That was me. And that's sort of Nadine. She's just kind of trying to play off her awkwardness that we share, her and I. The awkwardness level is like pretty equal. And yeah, I don't know. There was so much of her that I found in myself, and that I found I could identify with, more so than this ever feeling like a teen movie or a high school movie. There was a lot in her that I found in myself.
Well, when you were reading the script, what were some of the qualities, or maybe a scene or a specific line, something that jumped out to you and said, oh, okay, that's who this character is. I know how to play this.
There's a scene between Nadine and her brother Darian up on the staircase. It's this moment where she finally comes to the realization that she's not the only one with problems. And not only is she not the only one generally, but she's looking into the eyes of her brother, who lives in the same household as her and pretty much lives the same life. And for whatever reason, she has been convinced that he is perfect and has had it all great. And she envies him for that. And there's this moment where she says, I guess, I don't know the line verbatim, I don't remember, but it really, I do remember reading it and feeling like this is who she is. She's, that was one scene that really made me feel connected.
Right, and you bring up the brother. I mean, that speaks to the general conflict of the movie, which is that he begins dating your best friend, really your only friend, and the repercussions of that for you. Was it, I mean, did you think to yourself when you read it, oh, she's being selfish, or did you understand kind of where she was coming from?
A little bit of both. There's a moment that Nadine and Krista have where, Nadine is sort of just going in saying, it's me or it's him. And I thought that the fact that she sort of put her best friend in the position to choose, when it would just be so nice if she could have both and we could all be one big happy family and do things together. I thought that was selfish, but at the same time, I understand that feeling of questioning, why can't you just pick me? Like, what's wrong with me that you can't, she's just confused. And like you said, it's her only friend. And here she is, not only choosing her brother over her, but this person who she knows her best friend despises and has. And it's just a real sort of moment of betrayal in Nadine's eyes.
Well, the movie does a good job, I think, of showing why this would be the end of the world to her. In particular, I think of the scene where the three of you go to a party and she becomes like this social butterfly and leaves you behind.
Right.
And it's very, I think anybody who's ever been in that kind of situation before would relate to that very easily.
No, absolutely. And one of my favorite moments, when the three of them pull up in the car and the two are in the front and they're totally like loving life, listening to music, having a great time, everything's all good and great. And then it's like Nadine's face is just like, no, I'm having it. And she tries and you have to give her credit for really kind of going in there and going with the flow. But yeah, at a certain point, it's hard. I feel like we've all been there.
Right. There's so many great actors in the film. I wanted to bring up a couple of them. Woody Harrelson as your teacher. Talk a little bit about that dynamic and that relationship.
Thank God we hit it off personally, because I really feel like our timing and our personal banter that we developed really came through on screen. The writing obviously was just, perfect, just really flawless. And when it came to taking what was on that paper, I never really felt like I had to do much. But I will say with Woody, I was constantly he kept me on my toes. I was terrified most times as to what he would say. Kelly Freeman Craig, our director, would always give us a take after she knew she had what she wanted. She would always say to Woody and I, okay, do whatever you do, all the actors. But especially with Woody, she would say, you do whatever you want. And I learned very quickly that you tell Woody Harrelson to do whatever he wants. He will do whatever he wants. And he would constantly throw me for a loop. And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it is a really interesting twist on the, I guess, inspirational teacher that we've seen in a lot of these kinds of movies. There's some really great lines in there that I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. Kira Sedgwick as your mother. Another thing that the movie does well with her is it kind of shows how, whether you mean to or not, you can have a favorite child and maybe a strained relationship with another child. So can you talk a little bit about that relationship?
Yeah. I luckily have never had anything near the relationship Nadine has with her mom, with my mom or my dad. I'm so very close to them. And I guess in ways I've really only imagined what that would be like, not feeling understood by your parents, especially your mom. I feel like my mom is my best friend and I tell her everything. And if it weren't for her, I would not make it through my days. And so that was a dynamic that was challenging for me. And as a side note, especially because Kira and I, again, totally love her. And when it came time to sort of finding what would trigger feeling so misunderstood by your own mother, or feeling just like you have nothing in common, it's really heartbreaking. And they're both such fragile people, yet so independent. And they have a lot more in common than they see. And it was a real interesting sort of dynamic for me to, get into.
Right. And then lastly, there's Hayden Zetto as your friend Erwin, the shy boy who's got a crush on you, but you're preoccupied with the guy who doesn't even know who you are, who works at the pet shop. Talk a little bit about that relationship.
Hayden, I don't even know where to begin with Hayden. He is just, his timing is impeccable. His natural instinct and humor is just so on point. And Kelly will tell you herself that the things that Hayden would say or do could not be written. one of my favorite things, one of my favorite scenes in the movie with Hayden is when I call him for the first time, and he was in no way expecting it to be me. And he just literally just says, "Hi, how are you? Hey, what's going on? Hi, how are," like 50 times in a row before he lets me even say a word. And it's just like, how? Like, it's so good. But he genuinely made me smile and made me laugh. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes that's hard to come by when it's scripted. Like, she burst into laughter. I'm always like, oh God, okay. And I never had a problem with that when it came to my scenes with Hayden.
Hmm. Well, what did Kelly Freeman Craig do as a director that helped you with this character? This is her first film, and she's working under the guidance of the great Jim Brooks as a producer. So, talk a little bit about that working relationship between the two of you.
So Kelly, I feel like this whole experience between me and Kelly has just been one sort of never-ending conversation about life, about her research, about my research, about my personal experiences and hers. My very first audition, I went in, and the two of us were actually waiting for Jim, and we started getting into this conversation about my personal experiences going through school. And right away, I felt like this is somebody I can talk to, and this is somebody that will get sort of what's on my mind, because for someone that has a very hard time articulating thoughts in my mind that always make sense up there, to talk to somebody that gets it is always so just liberating, I guess. And Kelly understood what I was trying to say, even if I couldn't say it, and she knew where I was trying to go, even if I couldn't get there right away. She was just so supportive and empowering, and just the best listener you could ever have as a director, and gave feedback, which was amazing. But yeah, we both developed this character from day one together.
Right. Well, needless to say, you've been spoiled when it comes to directors. I mean, your first big film role was in True Grit with the Coen brothers. And for that, you got your first Oscar nomination. What was that recognition like? I mean, as a 14-year-old girl, having been in this film by these great filmmakers and getting an Oscar nomination for it.
I mean, I still have yet to figure out a way to form my thoughts on that. It is so incredibly overwhelming and just surreal still. And I look back on that experience and feel like I do have way more of an idea now as to what that was and what it all really meant than I did, or probably ever could as a 14-year-old. But to be recognized for love and for something you devoted so much of yourself emotionally, physically, to be recognized is an honor. So that was truly an unforgettable experience.
Well, it certainly opened the doors for you in significant ways, and made it possible for you to have a pick of scripts and to get a film like this, a tinier film, made on your names. What do you look for in the roles that you take on?
I always look for, whether it's a scene, whether it's the entire movie, whether it's just a couple of moments that I read initially and feel like, oh my God, there's no way. That's what I love. That's what I look for. That's what I want to know, that right now I think it's impossible, but I'm going to get through this and I'm going to make it possible. A character that's complex and has layers and has something to say. Incredible filmmakers, obviously, like you said, I've been so very lucky when it's come to that. And just a compelling story altogether.
Right. Like we said at the beginning, this film has been very well received by the people who've seen it, and it just opened, so people are still discovering it. What do you hope people take from this movie when they see it?
Well, I really truly feel like this movie is for everyone. I feel like there is something in it for everyone, anyone of any age. But I really hope that my generation can watch this movie and feel like it's their own, feel like it's their story, feel like they can watch this film and feel like they're not alone.
Absolutely. Well, Hailee Steinfeld, thank you so much, and congratulations on the film. It's wonderful, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
Of course. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.